Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, a co-production of EWTN Radio and spiritualdirection.com, where we provide you with a spiritual haven of rest and explore the riches of the wisdom of the saints and the path to union with God.
This is Dan and Stephanie Burke. Welcome to Divine Intimacy Radio, your radio haven of rest,
your hermitage of the heart,
your monastery of the mind, where we lift our hearts and minds to heaven to draw upon the wisdom of the saints to help us to navigate this absolutely crazy, insane life that we live.
Insane marriage, insane families, insane.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking, all the weird stuff going on in the world, but this show is about the interior life, and this series is about marriage. And yeah, families and marriages can be pretty insane and difficult.
Yeah, it really is. I was just, for whatever reason, the Lord has given me young people who are discerning marriage and who are looking for spouses and stuff. And just within the last 48 hours, it blows my mind a little bit about how many conversations I've had, and thanking God that I'm not in the dating pool anymore.
Right. It's where I feel so bad for young, faithful Catholics.
It's hard
in our time.
It is really, really hard. And it's hard enough if we didn't have all the issues that we have. And if we didn't have, anyway, there's a lot there.
I've often thought, could you imagine going back? Well, if you had to start now and I met a woman, I would say, I need to see your birth certificate. Have you always been a woman?
Oh, yeah, that's a little painful. Okay. We're not going down that road in this show. So,
all right. Well, from the last show, we ended with the divine intimacy secret. And I don't know, do you want to give that summary, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
So the divine intimacy secret is that there are basically 4 dimensions of marriage. There's communication, relational, friendship, physical, sexual, and spiritual. The divine intimacy secret is that if the spiritual life is addressed first, all other aspects of the marriage will improve. If they can improve, they will improve.
Yeah, exponentially. Well, and I mean, the thing is they can improve.
Yeah,
they can. With God's grace, everything can improve.
Yeah. Well, and I guess my hedging there is it requires 2 willing partners. So it can still
improve.
Yeah. I concede. I know stories. We both know stories.
We know lots of stories. So
right.
I would say if you get that right, and in at least just one person, things are going to get better.
That's the hope, right? And why is that? You want to explain why that is?
Well, because as we draw near to it, because there's always there's 2 people in a relationship. Well, there's 3 in a marriage, right? Husband, wife, and our Lord. And as one of them, so just say one decides they're going to follow the Lord, and the other's like, nope, not going to do this. As that one draws near to the Lord, they get purified, they get sanctified, their prayer becomes more efficacious. They become more one with the Lord. And as they draw one to the Lord hears the prayers of the righteous.
Right.
And so if one of them is drawing near to the Lord, the grace is pouring out on the other one.
Yeah. And it's a big if. The key is how, right? I mean, we'll talk about this more and more in this series. It has to be, and this is what we work on in the marriage retreats, it has to be that the one who is deciding to follow the Lord more fully, it's about them and their relationship with God, not them fixing their spouse.
Right.
So there has to be certain dynamics at play that allow for a healthy context that don't get in the way of the work of the Holy Spirit. Does that make sense? But if you have a conversion of one and then they're just trying to change the other, that doesn't work.
Oh, right. No, it's the Lord's job to convert.
Right.
It's the Lord's job to change the heart. It gets better because one person starts to discover peace.
Right.
And when one person starts to discover peace, hopefully, the peace starts to spread. It's contagious.
Yeah.
Just as sin is contagious, peace can be contagious in a home.
Yeah.
And when the ire and the difficulty or the struggles start to go away, the Lord starts to fill that space. In essence, whenever we draw near to the Lord, in whatever way that we do, and we give up whatever sin we're struggling with, pride, vanity, imprudence, lust, addictions, whatever they are, we're in essence, we're making room for the Lord.
Hmm.
So those are drawn out of the marriage, they're drawn out of the relationship, they're drawn out of the home, and the Lord starts to fill that space, and his will be done. We must have great hope, no matter if they're both following the Lord or not. Great hope, because the Lord can do a mighty thing. He makes all things new.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was actually thinking about people in the community of Apostolic VA that we've watched, men and women both,
Mhm.
where you have one has a deep conversion and just seen some of the most beautiful things.
Mhm.
In one case, the guy converted, and the wife, admitted this publicly and gave testimony that she thought we were weird and
We kind of are.
and that we were, maybe judging her, or that we weren't loving people, and she, and why, and what happened to her was she came in and started to participate a little bit in the community, and she even mocked her husband and his participation.
Mhm.
She was blown away at a recent meeting she came to because of how beautifully she was treated,
Right.
and how kind everyone was, and she felt at home, and like this was her family. It's a huge breakthrough.
It was huge. I don't even have the words. It was like
Right.
the width and depth of the
Yeah.
Grand Canyon, the change that has come over her.
And we're all for her, and she knew that.
Right. Well,
You know.
she came to discover that.
Yeah.
She came to discover that, and because the love of God changes hearts, right?
Right.
And so if your wife or your husband converts and they start to become more kind, loving, gentle,
Self-giving.
faithful, self-giving, under control, what
Right.
does that do? It brings down the ire in the other.
Right.
In most cases.
In most cases.
In
Yeah.
most cases, that just gives space for the Lord to start to work.
I remember a testimony. So just to give a male female example, and the male examples are usually about the man owning their rightful responsibility as the
Mhm.
spiritual leader of the home. That's a big one. And another big one is being gentle and kind with their wives, that sort of thing.
Nurturing and cherishing.
Nurturing and cherishing, according to Ephesians 5, which, if you don't know, that's where Stephanie was quoting. But when a woman has a conversion, it's often about getting past a critical spirit and learning to respect her husband, as it speaks of in Ephesians. But one testimony parallel to this, to the guy in our community, was this soul. I have such profound affection for, love for these folks, because I just watched them love the Lord and watch them live this transformation. But just bore witness to me, I don't criticize my husband anymore. I just love
Mhm.
him, and I just, I'm just patient. And there hasn't been a conversion yet, but he participates and he's supportive and all of that. It'll come in time. But just to see the peace in her,
Mhm.
right? Because she's no longer, now she understands what she wrestles with, and it's her,
Right.
not with her husband,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so now she's growing, and what's going to happen is she's just going to pull him up.
Mhm.
He's going to eventually come to a deeper relationship with the Lord, and I actually think he already is in some ways.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
stuff. So the divine intimacy secret, to the degree that we say yes to God, we unleash the grace available
That's right.
individually, to the degree that
Individually
we,
and collectively too.
right,
Yeah.
well, of course, if both come,
Right.
that's when we see the most amazing things,
Mhm.
right? To the degree that we say no to God, which is, the opposite, of course,
Right.
we are thereby saying yes to the devil, and that is never something we ever hear presented,
Mm-mm.
or, of course, the devil isn't talked about a lot anyway.
Right.
But when we say no to God, we're actually saying yes to a counter plan, and one that leads to hell and destruction, self-destruction, marital destruction. And that's what the enemy wants, is to destroy, one, your relationship with God, and two, your relationship with your spouse and your children.
Yes. Yeah. 3 your children. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So two key areas of sin that occur that we see all the time when we're talking through these things with people are
Unforgiveness and insensitivity.
yeah,
The unforgiveness has such a broad application here, because it's not just unforgiveness of the spouse. It's unforgiveness that is spread from childhood wounds, past relationships and all of that. And it
Mhm.
just carries forth, because whatever unforgiveness that we carry in our hearts, then that creates a barrier for the grace of the Lord. It's not that he can't go through that,
Mhm.
is that he is specifically, explicitly told us, this is how you are to pray. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And so we are literally saying, Lord, when I stand before you, when you call me and I stand before you, I'm going to say to you, Lord, forgive me the way I forgave my spouse. Forgive me the way I
Pretty
forgave my
frightening.
dad.
Pretty
Forgive me
frightening.
the way I forgave my mom, my stepmom, my stepdad, my sister, my brother, my ex-boyfriend, whatever it is. And I think anybody can come to realize, if they just take, and I would really invite you to do so, just take a moment and think about the person who just, the thought of them creates anxiety, um, anger, just something, an adverse reaction in you, and ask yourself, have I freely forgiven this person to the core of my being? Because if I have, that kind of stuff doesn't come up. The memory of someone can come up, and there's freedom because you've given them to the Lord. You've given the
There's
situation
not a
to the Lord.
wincing at the memory. Right?
No. And honestly, it's not to say that what people have done to us in the past is okay.
Right.
It's not okay. We have all been wounded, hurt, rejected, abandoned. We've been abused. We've been betrayed. I mean, pick something, and yet we can all use those descriptors and go back and say, when was my Lord abandoned? When was he betrayed? When was he rejected? When was he abandoned? And we can all start to understand that we can identify with Christ in each one of those wounds, so we can entrust them to him, so that we can be free, so that then in that freedom, grace can flow.
And we can love others.
We can love the way we're called to love, right?
Yeah.
Because if I hold every person accountable for every wound, every word that they've said that's offended me or hurt me, or was not in accordance with my opinion or my beliefs or my morals or whatever, then I'm never going to be free. I have to forgive everyone of everything.
With that, let's go to the break.
Oh, okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about and continue this series of shows on divine intimacy in marriage. If you find this fascinating or interesting, please check these out on YouTube, and please make sure you subscribe. And then also we have annual marriage retreats where we cover this material in depth in a very powerful way for couples. You can find out more at spiritualdirection.com/events.
With that, we'll be right back.
So we have a new course that I'm excited about. It's the Spirituality and the Martyrs, contemplating the faiths of Jesus, through the Avila Institute, Spiritual School of Spiritual Formation, which is a portion of our school where you get the quality of professor that you would get in a graduate level course, but it's designed for people who are busy but still want to go deeper in the interior life. So it's being taught by Dr. Marianne Sigmund. Apply by today, but I imagine we can fudge a little bit on any late applications. So check that out at avila-institute.org. Hey friends, this is Dan and Stephanie Burke. If this series has been moving to you, and the wisdom of John Paul II has drawn your heart to some kind of vision of a deeper possibility of a deeper relationship with your spouse and the Lord, we have a retreat that will take you there. It's called Divine Intimacy in Marriage. And whether your marriage is good, it can be great, or it's bad and needs to be healed and better, whatever the difficulties you have, pre-marriage even come, it'll be a great experience to continue the wisdom that you've heard from this series.
Yeah, we've seen so much incredible fruit from it. So if you'd like to join us, you can head out to spiritualdirection.com/events for all of our events, but particular our Divine Intimacy in Marriage retreats. Our next one will be at St. Augustine Cathedral in downtown Tucson, Valentine's Day weekend in 2026. Come join us to make your marriage what it can be.
Dan and Stephanie Burke. Welcome back to Divine Intimacy Radio. We're going through a series of reflections on divine intimacy in marriage that are based upon a retreat that we give. Every year we give, I don't know, 2 or 3 on average. We've been to Australia and all over the US, and I think we're going to New Zealand sometime soon.
Trinidad,
we've done one in Trinidad. Anyway,
they want us to come back and do another.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really a blessing to be able to serve couples in this. And we're talking through some of the insights, I think, from the retreat. And I want to just cover a few key areas, and then we'll move into the progress of the soul as in mystical tradition and how that relates to marriage, in particular with St. Teresa of Avila's vision of the interior castle, which would be fun.
So before the break, we were talking about the 2 key areas of sin, which are unforgiveness and insensitivity. And just to bring the unforgiveness home, I can guarantee you that your marriage will not progress unless you can get to a profound level of forgiveness for your spouse, for others in your life, because it is literally bondage. Unforgiveness is bondage. It's wishing the other person ill and drinking poison yourself. And it just has a profound spiritual effect on us for ill. It leads to all other sins, and it's just not something that we can do. It's really, really primary.
This is why we always emphasize this really, how would you say, ominous reality of saying yes to God or no to God, and yes, that it's by definition yes to the enemy. Some people think, as an example, that I used to think this, that people get possessed by grand acts of request to the devil himself, right?
No, it's by little tiny decisions, little tiny sins that start to compound on each other.
Right. So to say it again, yes, they do get possessed by grand acts of, selling your soul, so to speak, in traditional parlance. But what we've discovered, and those who are in work in deliverance and exorcism ministry know, is that when you constantly give place to sin in your life, you're constantly giving place to the devil in your life.
Absolutely.
When you constantly say no to God in particular areas, you're constantly inviting the enemy in. And so it's why we have to pay attention. Both mortal sins are easy for Catholics to understand, but it's venial sins and imperfections even that are a little doorway. Mortal sin is a big doorway. The analogy I always use is we lived in Bessemer, Alabama, and Bessemer is known for it usually is in the top 3 of violent crimes per 100,000.
Right.
And so mortal sin is like living in downtown Bessemer and having no front door. Venial sin is like living in downtown Bessemer with a front door with no locks on the door and no locks on the window. And imperfections or, just leaving maybe the back window open.
Right.
So we have to work through these things in marriage and understand where there's unforgiveness, where there's also just habituated or habits that are not loving, that are not kind, that are not respectful, that are not honoring, that are not cherishing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, you use the word sensitivity for that secondary area of deep concern in marriages. And we study Ephesians 5 deeply in the marriage retreat, not to beat anybody over the head with it, but to rather have people understand this is God's design for marriage. What does that mean in modern language? What does that mean in the day-to-day of communicating and loving and living with somebody else that you've pledged to till death do you part? And it's very, very difficult. It is not easy. I have reflected deeply that for men, it's asking them to do something that's contrary to their DNA, their makeup,
design.
their design.
Even the good design.
Right. And it's asking a woman to do something that's contrary to her design. Women can easily nurture and cherish. we're built for it. We want to gather children into our arms. Men have no problem respecting other men, especially if they think there's a power struggle there, or whatever.
Men are wired to kill stuff and to
Okay.
bring home food and
Right.
and
right.
defend off wild beasts, and
Yeah.
that's how we're wired.
So in that,
Mm-hmm.
men are being asked to be very, very sensitive to their wives, right? I used this with a gentleman that came in for healing prayer, and he's just such a good guy. And there just happened to be a rose on the table because it was close to Therez's feast day. And as an example, I picked up the rose and I handed it to him. And I said, hold this. And he did. And he held it very gently.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at it. He was admiring it. He was trying to keep away from the thorns,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. And I said, how come you don't manhandle that? How come you don't grab it like you would
a baseball bat
or something else? And he said, well, I would crush it. Our men need to understand that their wives are roses.
Mm-hmm.
They're roses. And if they don't handle them properly by nurturing and cherishing them, handling them with sensitivity and gentleness, they will crush them. And then they will complain about, where'd my wife go? Where'd my girlfriend go?
Right.
She was a lot of fun when we were dating, but I was pursuing her like crazy. I was being really kind. I was opening the door. I was doing these things. But then after we got married, I quit doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Because, life, busyness,
but
finances.
But for men, it's a conquer thing. Like I got her. I mean, that's just at a base level.
Right. Right. But you have been very specific about, and it ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like anybody, you put on your pants one leg at a time, and, neither one of us bilocate. But you have been very purposeful in trying to nurture and cherish me. You're specific about it. I know you are.
Well, I don't want to go to hell for one, and I really like you.
Oh, okay.
But
you want me to kind of stay around?
I do. On a serious note, though, I mean, if you're going to be an authentic disciple of Jesus, you just don't get to not do that with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
It's just period.
Yeah.
I mean, you can claim, oh, I'm Catholic. Oh, I care about Jesus. Oh, I care about my relationship with God, and treat your wife horribly. You're a fool, and you're going to probably end up in hell. It just doesn't work like that. And I, somebody might say, well, you're way overstating your point. I'm not. Read the epistles of John,
mm-hmm.
which say basically, as you are with men, so you are with God.
Right.
And basically how you treat your spouse, it reveals how you treat the person you struggle with the most in your life, reveals where you really are spiritually.
Yeah.
It's not how you treat the people who, are very spiritual and always compatible with people. You and, work, anyway. All right.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't want to miss this point, because it's not just about the guys.
Yeah.
For the women,
mm-hmm.
it's the usurpation of the male's authority in the home. It's the disrespect. It's the tearing down, because women can be as insensitive to their husbands as husbands can be towards their wives. And so when I fail to see you as a son of God,
mm-hmm.
then then at that point, I start to make myself God. I'm going to determine how my husband's supposed to act, speak, make decisions or whatever. And the moment that I cross that line in disrespect and usurpation of your authority, then I also have to answer to God for that.
Sure.
Right. In a huge way.
Sure. Well, it's crazy. I thought these points would be quick, but
no, they go deep.
Never goes. So
this is,
so for those listening, we're going to continue this. We are going to get into the progress of the soul, the mystical wisdom about the progress of the soul in the interior life and how it relates to marriage. But I want to make sure we get through just a few more things that are key to laying the foundation for that when we get there. We talked about, I think in the first show, that a sacramental marriage is so powerful that it can protect an exorcist in the context of exorcism. So if you want to hear about that, go back to the first show. But the point being, we don't, we often think of, I think the Eucharist, we can conceive of it as powerful. Confession, we can conceive it as powerful. I until we started to really study this and figure this out for ourselves, I never thought of our marriage as a sacrament as powerful. And really honestly, until that exorcist said, I want you in the exorcism to protect me,
right,
the priest. And that was the biggest eye opener.
mm-hmm.
And so we talked about that a lot in I think in the first show, the first in this series. No matter how broken or sinful your life has been, there is hope if you will both commit to making Jesus the center.
Mm-hmm.
Your brokenness is no barrier to God's mercy and grace.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in many ways, it's a great preparation to have your soil all broken, busted up because of past sin and patterns and whatever. He wants to come in and to heal you. And we've got just about 2 minutes, just, or a minute and a half.
I do want to give hope, though, as we did at the beginning of the show, to remind people, because I do know, like right off the bat, 2 women who went and asked their husbands if they would consider coming on the marriage retreat,
mm-hmm.
and they immediately declined. And those women came away heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, if you both commit, I want you to have hope. I want you to have hope that if your husband's not committed, or if your wife's not committed, the Lord can still do a mighty thing.
Yep.
You keep moving forward. You become who you're called to be. You become holy. You pray your rosary. You sit in adoration. You go to daily mass. You give your life over to the Lord, and you rise and you do the next right thing according to your design and what God has asked of you in your marriage. And you give him space to do a miracle, to bring about a miracle. And he will. I've seen it over and over again. So until next time, may the God of peace make you perfect in holiness. May he preserve you whole and entire, spirit, soul, and body, irreproachable at the coming of our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Learn more about the interior life. Visit spiritualdirection.com. Divine Intimacy Radio is a co-production of EWTN Radio and spiritualdirection.com, and heard worldwide on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.